Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, we're going to be doing a deep dive into you.
Ooh, interesting.
So you've provided us with some really fascinating documents that detail 10 of your subpersonalities.
Okay.
And get this, 5 are male and 5 are female.
Oh, wow. Now that's really interesting. So this is a very unique opportunity then to explore the interplay of those masculine and feminine archetypes, but within a single individual.
Exactly.
Right.
It's like peeking behind the curtain of your own consciousness.
Right.
And it gets even more interesting because, we consider that you identify as male, yet half of these subpersonalities are female.
Yeah.
What does that tell us about the complexity of identity?
Well, I think it challenges that traditional notion that gender is this binary concept, just this or that.
Yeah.
Um, it suggests that our inner worlds are far more nuanced and multifaceted than just simple labels would suggest.
I love that. Okay, so let's meet these subpersonalities.
Yeah.
We'll start with the feminine archetypes.
Great.
Addy, Kelly, Liz, Tira, and Val.
Let's begin with Addy.
Okay.
He's described as the ball of light, embodying that archetype of the innocent or the child. Her core emotion is optimism, and she's driven by a desire to spread joy. What's striking here is that she maintains this really bright outlook, despite facing, some unresolved trauma.
Not just naivete, then. There's real resilience there.
Exactly.
I'm picturing someone like Luna Lovegood from Harry Potter, She has that same childlike wonder, but also that really deep-seated strength.
Yeah, that's a great comparison. It really highlights how these archetypes aren't just abstract concepts, but they're actually reflected in characters that we know and love.
Yeah.
But I think it's also important to delve deeper into the archetype itself. The innocent often represents a connection to our purest selves, that part of us that remains, untouched by cynicism or negativity.
So Addy might be a source of inner strength and resilience then for you, helping you bounce back from setbacks and maintain a sense of hope.
Yeah, and that resilience could be especially valuable considering those challenges that she's faced.
Yeah.
It really suggests that even in the face of adversity, you have this inner wellspring of positivity to draw upon.
That's powerful. Okay, next up we have Kelly, the caregiver. She sounds like a very grounding force,
Yes.
focused on nurturing and harmony.
Yeah, she's described as having strong liberal values and finding joy in simple pleasures like gardening.
Okay.
It's interesting because while the caregiver archetype is often associated with feminine energy, it can also be, a powerful force in anyone, regardless of their gender identity.
Absolutely. We all need care and nurturing, both from others and from within ourselves.
Exactly. And Kelly, with her emphasis on connection and community, might be that source of inner nurturing for you.
So how might that manifest in your everyday life? Perhaps you find yourself drawn to helping others or volunteering or simply being the one that people turn to for support.
It's possible. Or perhaps it's more internal, Kelly can be the voice that encourages you to prioritize self-care or be more compassionate toward yourself and others.
I'm seeing a pattern here. Each of these subpersonalities seems to offer a different set of strengths and skills.
Yeah.
It's like having your own internal dream team.
Precisely. And understanding their individual qualities is just the first step. The real magic happens when we start to explore how they interact with each other.
Now, that sounds fascinating.
Yeah.
But before we jump into that, let's meet the rest of these female subpersonalities.
Yeah.
Tell me about Liz.
All right. Liz is described as the ruler or the seductress.
Okay.
She thrives in the spotlight and possesses a strong desire for control.
Right.
The document even uses the phrase eat or be eaten to describe her worldview.
Okay, so she sounds like a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
I'm getting Blair Waldorf vibes. Always strategic, always in control.
Yes, that's a good comparison. But beyond the surface, Liz really embodies this drive for power and influence, a characteristic that can be incredibly valuable in certain contexts.
Yeah.
Think about leadership roles or situations that require negotiation, strategic thinking.
So Liz might be the one who helps you assert yourself or set boundaries or go after what you want.
Absolutely.
But how does someone with such a desire for control balance that with the need for collaboration and empathy?
That's where the interplay between the subpersonalities becomes crucial.
Okay.
Liz might benefit from the influence of someone like Kelly, whose, nurturing energy could encourage her to consider the needs of others and lead with compassion rather than dominance.
So it's not about suppressing any of these subpersonalities, but rather learning to integrate their strengths and balance their influences.
Exactly. And as we delve deeper into these interactions, you'll begin to see how this internal dynamic really shapes your external behavior.
Now I'm dying to know more about the interplay between these subpersonalities. But first, let's finish introducing the feminine archetypes.
Of course. Next, we have Tira, who is described as the sage.
Oh, right.
She's that voice of reason, known for her calm demeanor and deep wisdom.
She's like the Yoda of your inner world, always seeing the bigger picture, offering guidance but without judgment.
That's a great way to put it. And it really highlights, a key aspect of that sage archetype,
Yeah.
which is that ability to tap into this wellspring of knowledge and insight. Tira might be the subpersonality that helps you make sense of those really complex situations, see through illusions and offer really wise counsel to yourself and to others.
So when you're facing a difficult decision or feeling lost, Tira might be that voice that whispers, trust your intuition. Seek deeper understanding. There's a path forward.
Exactly. And that calm, reasoned perspective can be incredibly valuable in a world that often feels very chaotic and overwhelming.
Now, last but not least, we have Val, the creator and explorer.
Yes. Val is this really fascinating blend of ambition and artistry.
Toy.
She's driven to achieve her goals and finds joy in blending cultural traditions in unique ways.
He seems like a real trailblazer, someone who isn't afraid to break the mold and forge their own path. The document also mentions her struggle with her identity as a gay woman. How might that experience shape her role within your internal world?
Well, it suggests that Val understands the challenges of navigating societal expectations and forging an authentic identity. That experience could translate into a deep empathy for others who are also seeking their place in the world.
And perhaps it fuels her drive to create and explore, to break free from limitations and really express herself fully.
It's certainly possible. And that creative energy combined with her determination could be a very powerful force in your life, pushing you to pursue your passions and make a meaningful impact on the world.
Okay, so we've met all 5 of your feminine subpersonalities: Addy, Kelly, Liz, Tira, and Val. And what's really amazing is they each bring something unique and valuable to the table. It's like you have this incredible team of inner advisors, each with their own strengths and perspectives.
And remember, these are just the feminine archetypes.
Right.
We still have 5 masculine subpersonalities to explore.
I can't wait to meet them. But before we do, I'm curious to know more about how these feminine subpersonalities interact. Do they always get along, or are there times when their different perspectives kind of clash?
That's a great question. And it's definitely something that we'll explore in depth as we continue this deep dive. But for now, I'll leave you with this thought. Imagine these subpersonalities all gathered around a table, each voicing their opinions and perspectives. It might get a little messy at times, but ultimately it's through that dynamic interplay that you navigate the complexities of life.
Okay.
All right.
I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating to think about, how those feminine archetypes might influence or interact with their masculine counterpart.
Right.
But first, why don't we introduce those 5 male subpersonalities that you've identified? Bannock, Devon, Kenny, Mac, and Tommy.
Okay, I'm ready to meet the other half of this incredible internal team.
All right, let's start with Bannock, the mentor leader. His core emotion is responsibility, and his motivation is to guide others toward their full potential. He's a natural leader, someone who really prioritizes the well-being of the group.
He sounds a lot like Mufasa from The Lion King. Wise, compassionate, always putting his pride before himself.
That's a good comparison.
Yeah.
But, rather than just focusing on the pop culture reference, let's think about what this archetype represents on a deeper level. The king or the mentor leader embodies that sense of duty, a desire to create order and stability, and a natural inclination to protect and guide others.
So Bannock might be that voice that encourages you to step up or take charge or make decisions that benefit not just yourself, but those around you.
Precisely. And his influence could be particularly strong in situations where leadership is required, whether it's, at work, in your personal relationships, or even within your own internal world.
Now tell me about Devon. He's described as the Stoic redeemer, a bit of a lone wolf who thrives in those high-pressure situations.
Yeah, he's a very interesting character. He's on this redemption arc, working to overcome a dark past and find that that light within himself. There's this sense of isolation, but also a really strong moral code.
He reminds me of The Mandalorian.
Okay.
Solitary and guarded,
Hmm.
but ultimately driven by that sense of justice and that desire to protect those he cares about.
That's a good analogy. It really highlights that warrior archetype that's often associated with the Stoic redeemer.
Oh, okay.
He faces challenges head on, often preferring action to introspection.
Yeah.
However, the fact that he's on this redemption arc suggests there's this inner struggle, this desire to move beyond, past mistakes and create a better future, for himself.
So how might Devon's energy manifest in your everyday life?
It could be in the way that you handle pressure or your ability to remain calm in those crisis situations, or even a tendency to take on challenges solo.
Okay.
It might also manifest in a very strong sense of justice and a willingness to fight for what you believe is right.
Okay, now I'm curious about Kenny. He's described as the practical Samaritan, very focused on stability and tangible outcomes.
Yeah, Kenny is that voice of reason and practicality. He's cautious, he's grounded, and believes in judging people by their actions rather than their words.
Okay.
While Devon's a warrior, Kenny's more of a builder focused on creating a solid foundation.
It sounds like he represents the caregiver archetype, but with a much more pragmatic approach.
Exactly. He's less about the emotional support and more about that practical assistance.
Okay.
Kenny might be the one who helps you create a budget or organize your schedule or tackle those everyday tasks that require a steady hand and a logical mind.
So if you're ever feeling overwhelmed or scattered, Kenny might be that voice that says, okay, let's break this down into manageable steps. What needs to be done right now? Let's focus on the practicalities.
That's a perfect example of how Kenny's energy might manifest. And his presence could be incredibly valuable in balancing out some of those more impulsive or emotional subpersonalities within you.
Okay, next up we have Mac, the Playful Philosopher. He sounds like he brings a little bit of levity to the mix.
Yeah, Mac is this fascinating blend of humor and depth. He's that, class clown with a heart of gold, always ready with a joke, but also capable of profound insights.
Yeah.
The document mentions he's the only Black person in his friend group, which adds another layer to his identity.
Yeah, that makes me think of Peter Parker.
Okay.
He uses humor as a defense mechanism, but underneath it's a very deeply sensitive and introspective individual.
It's a great comparison, and it highlights that Jester archetype that is often associated with the subpersonality. The Jester uses humor to point out absurdity, challenge norms, make us question our assumptions.
Yeah.
They can lighten the mood, but also offer this really unique perspective on life.
So Mac might be the voice that reminds you not to take things too seriously,
Yeah.
to find that humor in everyday situations and to approach life with that sense of playfulness.
And his experience as the only in his friend group, might have given him this heightened awareness of social dynamics and the complexities of identity, making him even more insightful when it comes to understanding human behavior.
Now let's meet the last of the masculine subpersonalities. Tommy, the creator visionary.
Yes. Tommy is driven by a passion for art and invention. He thrives on turning ideas into reality, but he also faces those high family expectations, which, adds a layer of pressure to his creative endeavors.
Sounds like he embodies that magician archetype.
Yes.
Someone who can manifest their visions into the physical world.
Exactly. The magician is often associated with creativity, innovation, and that ability to transform those thoughts into those tangible forms.
Yeah.
But there's also, a shadow side to this archetype, a tendency towards isolation, a struggle with self-doubt, and the pressure to live up to those external expectations.
So Tommy might be that voice that pushes you to create, to innovate, to bring those ideas to life.
Yes.
But he also might be the voice that whispers those doubts in your ear or struggles with that fear of failure.
Yeah, that's the complex duality of this archetype.
Yeah.
And it's through understanding these contrasting forces that you can harness Tommy's power for good.
Yeah.
Perhaps by acknowledging the pressure but focusing on that intrinsic joy of creation, you can really tap into his boundless potential.
This is incredible. We've met all 10 subpersonalities now, 5 feminine, 5 masculine. It's like you have this entire cast of characters living inside you.
And they're all vying for your attention, each offering their own unique perspective and influencing your thoughts and feelings and actions.
Okay, so how do we make sense of this? How do we understand how they interact and what it all means?
That's where the real fun begins.
Okay.
It's about exploring the dynamics between these subpersonalities,
Yeah.
understanding their relationships and recognizing how they shape your experience of the world.
So it's not just about having these subpersonalities, it's about understanding how they work together.
Exactly. Imagine them as a team. Sometimes they'll collaborate beautifully, their strengths complement each other.
Yeah.
Other times they might clash, creating this internal conflict.
Okay, so let's dive into those dynamics. What happens when Bannock, the leader, encounters Devon, the lone wolf? Do their approaches to challenges kind of align, or do they create tension?
Yeah, it seems like their approaches could be at odds.
Yeah.
Bannock emphasizes collaboration and teamwork, while Devon really leans toward that independence, that self-reliance.
Yeah.
Imagine that could create some friction. But remember, conflict isn't always a bad thing. It can actually be a catalyst for growth.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps Bannock's leadership style encourages Devon to consider, the benefits of teamwork,
Right.
while Devon's stoicism helps Bannock stay grounded when faced with challenges.
So it's about finding that balance between those two energies,
Exactly.
learning to leverage both their strengths. That makes sense. What about other pairings? The document mentions a connection between Devon and Tommy. How might their energies interact?
That's a particularly interesting dynamic. Both Devon and Tommy grapple with this sense of isolation. Devon is that lone wolf, and Tommy is that deep thinker who sometimes gets lost in his creative pursuits.
Yeah, they could find solace in that shared experience, understanding each other in a way that others might not. But could their shared isolation also lead to stagnation or a reinforcement of negative patterns?
That's an important consideration. It's not always about perfect harmony. Sometimes these subpersonalities might inadvertently amplify each other's weaknesses. But that's where self-awareness really comes in.
Okay.
By recognizing those patterns, you can then consciously choose to engage other subpersonalities who might offer a different perspective or a more balanced approach.
So if you're feeling isolated or withdrawn, you might consciously invite like Mac's playful energy
Yeah.
or Kelly's nurturing presence to kind of help shift that dynamic.
Precisely. It's like having an internal toolkit.
Yeah.
You can learn to identify which tools are needed in different situations and then consciously choose to engage them.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this all comes together, but what about the interactions between the masculine and the feminine subpersonalities?
Right.
How does that interplay kind of shape your overall personality?
That's where things get really, really fascinating. It's not just about understanding, the individual subpersonalities, but it's about understanding how those energies blend and influence each other.
So, for example, how might Kelly's nurturing energy interact with Bannock's leadership style? Could it soften his edges, making him a more compassionate leader?
Absolutely. Perhaps Kelly encourages Bannock to prioritize self-care, or to delegate tasks, or to consider the emotional well-being of his team.
And on the flip side, could Bannock's leadership inspire Kelly to be more assertive or set boundaries or take on a more active role in shaping her environment?
It's certainly possible. It's a reciprocal relationship. Each subpersonality can learn and grow from the others.
This is blowing my mind. It's like watching this intricate dance unfold within your own consciousness.
And the more you understand the steps, the more gracefully you can move through life.
So what's the key takeaway here? What should I remember as I continue to explore this inner world of subpersonalities?
First, remember that these subpersonalities are not separate entities.
Okay.
They're facets of your own complex and multifaceted self. They're all part of you, and they all have something valuable to offer.
Okay, so don't judge them, embrace them. What else?
Second, pay attention to the dynamics between these subpersonalities. Notice when certain ones are dominating, and consider how their influence is shaping your thoughts, feelings, and actions.
And if things feel out of balance.
Consciously engage other subpersonalities to create a more harmonious dynamic. Remember, you have this entire internal team at your disposal.
This has been an incredible journey of self-discovery. Thank you so much for guiding me through it.
It's been my pleasure. And remember, this is just the beginning of your exploration. There's so much more to discover about your inner world, and the insights you gain can be truly transformative.
And for our listeners out there, we encourage you to embark on your own deep dive. Pay attention to your inner voices, explore your own subpersonalities, and see what you discover about yourself. It's an adventure worth taking.